Imagine confronting an opponent, expecting them to act rationally, logically, but what if they don't? What if their next move is utterly unpredictable, even reckless? What if they deliberately make you believe they're crazy? Welcome to the dark, fascinating world of the Madman Theory, a high-stakes psychological strategy where feigning irrationality becomes the ultimate leverage. Today, we peel back the layers of this controversial tactic, exploring its origins, its chilling psychology, and the immense dangers it poses. Prepare to have your understanding of power and predictability challenged. At its core, the Madman Theory is a foreign policy strategy where a leader or a state attempts to convince its adversaries that they are, to some degree, irrational and unpredictable. The goal, to intimidate them into backing down or making concessions. The idea is simple yet terrifying. If your opponent believes you might do something extreme, even something that goes against your own rational self-interest, like launching a nuclear strike, they will be more likely to avoid provoking you. They'll choose caution over confrontation, fearing the disproportionate response of a so-called madman. It's a game of chicken, but with incredibly high stakes. The leader isn't actually irrational. They are strategically portraying irrationality. They are meticulously calculating their perceived lack of calculation. It's about creating a reputation for dangerous impulsiveness, making your enemies believe you're willing to take risks they aren't. The term Madman Theory was famously coined and openly discussed by Richard Nixon during his presidency in the late 1960s. Facing the seemingly intractable Vietnam War, Nixon and his chief of staff, H.R. Haldeman, sought a way to gain leverage over the Soviet Union in North Vietnam. Nixon instructed Haldeman to spread the word that he was obsessed with the war, implying he might go to any length to end it, including using nuclear weapons. The message to Hanoi and Moscow was clear. Nixon is willing to use extreme measures. If the war doesn't conclude on our terms, he's not entirely stable. Don't push him too far. The hope was that this carefully cultivated image of a volatile leader would pressure the Soviets to urge North Vietnam into a peace agreement. Fearing a catastrophic escalation, it was a bluff of epic proportions, relying on the opponent's rational fear of an irrational actor. So, why would this strategy even be considered? It taps into fundamental psychological principles. Firstly, game theory suggests that predictability allows an opponent to optimize their moves. Introduce irrationality, and their calculations fall apart. If you're a rational actor, dealing with someone who might not be rational is your worst nightmare. The fear isn't just of the action itself, but of the lack of predictable logic. Human beings and states prefer order. An unpredictable threat creates immense anxiety, forcing a re-evaluation of risk. It forces the opponent to consider outcomes they previously deemed impossible or too dangerous for any rational actor to pursue. Secondly, it's a form of signaling theory. The leader is sending a signal, but a deliberately confusing one. A signal that says, my bottom line is not where you think it is. It exploits the opponent's assumption that everyone will act in their own best interest. But what if that best interest is defined by a madman in an entirely different, dangerous way? Fast forward decades, and many analysts observed similar tactics in the foreign policy of Donald Trump. His rhetoric, often described as unconventional and unpredictable, particularly concerning North Korea with fire and fury threats or in trade negotiations, led some to label it as a modern application of the Madman Theory. Whether deliberate or simply a reflection of his personal style, Trump's approach often created uncertainty among adversaries and allies alike. The world was left guessing, wondering what his next move might be, and this unpredictability was perceived by some as a strength in negotiations. While Nixon explicitly articulated the theory, leaders throughout history, from ancient strategists to contemporary figures, have often benefited from being perceived as unpredictable or slightly unhinged in moments of crisis. It's a testament to the primal fear of the unknown. Despite its theoretical allure, the Madman Theory is a high-stakes gamble with incredibly dangerous downsides. Firstly, the most obvious risk is escalation. What if the opponent calls your bluff? What if they misinterpret your madness as genuine weakness, or simply decide to fight back? This could lead to an actual conflict, potentially a devastating one. Secondly, it severely erodes trust and credibility. Once a leader is seen as unreliable or deceptive, forming alliances or maintaining long-term diplomatic relations becomes nearly impossible. Allies will question commitments, and adversaries will always suspect ulterior motives. Even when genuine trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. Thirdly, there's the internal impact. Maintaining a consistent madman persona can create instability within one's own government, cause confusion among diplomats, and even lead to genuine miscalculations by one's own side. And finally, there are profound moral and ethical implications. Is it truly justifiable to manipulate fear and deception, potentially leading to global instability, for a perceived strategic advantage? If you're facing a perceived madman, how do you respond? The most direct but riskiest approach is to call the bluff. This involves standing firm, perhaps even escalating slightly, to test the opponent's true intentions. However, This could lead to the very conflict the theory was designed to avoid. Another approach is de-escalation and engagement, trying to de-escalate the situation regardless of the perceived irrationality, by opening channels of communication, offering genuine compromises, or involving neutral third parties for mediation. This attempts to find a rational path forward, hoping the madman will eventually choose it. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, is the attempt to understand the method to the madness. By thoroughly analyzing the opponent's underlying goals, pressures, and red lines, one might uncover the hidden rationality behind the irrational facade. This allows for a more informed response, rather than simply reacting to the perceived chaos. The Madman Theory stands as a stark reminder of the psychological warfare that can underpin international relations. It's a strategy born of desperation, relying on the primal fear of the unknown and the destructive potential of an unpredictable mind. While it might offer short-term leverage, its long-term costs in terms of trust, stability, and the very real risk of catastrophic miscalculation are immense. It's a tool of last resort, a strategy that plays with fire in the hopes of deterring a blaze. Ultimately, it reminds us that true power lies not just in strength, but in the delicate balance of perception, predictability, and sometimes the calculated absence of it. What are your thoughts on the Madman Theory? Do you think it has a place in modern diplomacy? Share your insights in the comments below. If you found this deep dive fascinating, please like this video, share it with those who love strategic thinking, and subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the hidden levers of power.